Welcome, Adam's Child, to this week's sermon where we sift through the off-the-wall lore that has piled up through the years relating to Fallout's very own smiling mascot. There is so much randomness to unpack here, but let's crank up the rads and start with the most basic but somehow most confusing part of this saga: his name. You've done it, I've done it, and Fallout's very own developers and designers have done it, although we may not want to admit it. This guy here, the undisputed mascot of Fallout, found all over promotional material both in the Fallout universe and the real world, and plastered all over perk cards, posters, and Pip-Boy screens. With how iconic and well recognized as he is, what do you actually call him? He has gone by many names and still goes by a few: Vault Guy, Pip-Boy, Skill Guy, Vault Man, Fallout Boy. Any point in time, one of those may have been more correct than some of the others, but let's set the record straight and call him by his Adam-given name, Vault Boy. Vault Boy's name was a bit confusing from the beginning, and it still is. But why? Why do so many fans, both hardcore and casual, mess up his name? All the way back in the beginning, in the mid-1990s, when Fallout was a creative exercise for a small group of developers at Interplay, and I was just a little rad kid learning to read and write, Leonard Boyarsky, the lead artist and art director of the fledgling project, had an idea for a charming little character, inspired by the mascot for the classic board game Monopoly. Uncle Pennybags, or sometimes just called the Monopoly Guy, classically appeared on the various chance cards where he encounters a number of different scenarios based on the card. And this inspiration was what led to Fallout's very own Skill Guy. Okay, Skill Guy isn't a great name, but it wasn't meant to be. It was just a temporary name so Leonard could communicate his idea to the rest of the team while they figured out his look, his name, and what kind of role he was going to play in the games. By the time Fallout released, Skill Guy's name changed to Vault Man, which I will continue to call him until the next name change. It was first mentioned in the game's manual called the Vault Dweller's Survival Guide. Vault Man appeared in the manual, some loading screens, their character perk and skill menu, and even for a brief time in the intro. But this sunny little guy was just getting started, as his role would only grow with newer games. Okay, now I must mention a very important and complicating factor, and that is the ever important Pip-Boy personal computer, and its very own mascot that is a similar art style to Vault Man and seems to borrow his cheerfulness and even an extended arm and a thumbs up. Of course, he is in a totally different outfit, with a shock of red hair and even pointed ears in his space-age outfit, but the similarities are certainly there. These superficial similarities, combined with the very prolific presence of Vault Man on the character screen of the Pip-Boy, may be the main reason that the name Pip-Boy and our devilishly smiling little Vault Tech friend here became conflated with one another. Although the Pip-Boy does have a distinct mascot, we see so much more of Vault Man when we open up the Pip-Boy and peruse the perks and skills as we level up and develop our character, and perhaps this is how the confusion started. But wow, did misnaming Vault Man as Pip-Boy really take hold among fans, and even among developers of some Fallout games. Although Fallout Tactics was developed by a team that was largely different from the ones that had developed the first two games, they did have some important original creators. That makes it all the more interesting that this game would mark the biggest Vault Man Pip-Boy mix-up ever. In an interview prior to the release of Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel, or just Tactics as it's mostly referred to as, both an IGN interviewer and the Tactics developers both referred to Vault Man as Pip-Boy. The devs were asked a question. The Pip-Boy caricatures representing the skills and perks were a big part of the charm of Fallout. Tell us about some of the new Pip-Boys we can expect to see in Tactics. And they responded, if there's one thing that most people remember about Fallout, it's the Pip-Boy character. He's always so darned cheery. I get to do a bunch of new Pip-Boys for the game, and my favorite so far has to be the one for the special damage effect of immobile. Here's the little chap, arms and legs missing, blood spurting comically from the stumps, but he still wears that happy, devil-may-care grin. Bless him. Pip-Boy? That is not Pip-Boy. Oh no. If these devs are making a mistake like this before the release of Fallout Tactics, what does that mean for the game? Oh no. In a special encounter in Fallout Tactics, the player can find and recruit into their party the so-called Pip-Boy, which is just a walking, talking, and potentially killing recruit that looks exactly like Vaultman. Since he's being called Pip-Boy, I will refer to him as much for this part of the video, but make no mistake, Pip-Boy is not his actual name. It wasn't from the beginning, and it still isn't to this day. Pip-Boy will join the player's group and freaking waste people with his FNFAL, all the while barking old-timey quips like, "Gee Willikers," or "The first time you kill is the hardest." That's a bit darker than I was expecting. He has an incredible 10 luck stat and is the most proficient in small guns, energy weapons, and sneak skills, but I want to know, how does he only have 5 charisma? That is like his whole thing, being a lovable little scamp. 2002 was a busy year because in addition to this big confusing Easter egg in Fallout Tactics, Chris Avallone, a designer involved with Fallout 2, but who is most well known for his work on the much later Fallout New Vegas, and the author, compiler, and mastermind behind the Fallout Bible, made the same exact mistake in both the 3rd and 5th releases of the Fallout Bible. And fans that would send questions would also commit this grave sin, like seen in the 8th publication. This exact same mix-up came again in 2002, but in a new and interesting form. Interplay published a third-person shooter called Run Like Hell, Hunt or Be Hunted, and while the game itself isn't all that interesting and was met with a mediocre response, there was one Vault Boy related Easter egg. An in-game consumable called the Pip-Boy Protein Bar exists, which wouldn't be worth mentioning here if it weren't for the prominent Vault Man on the front, shown in his buff-out addiction pose from the first 2 games. The conflation of the Vault Man and the name Pip-Boy was absolutely rampant early on, and is still very much a problem today, even among developers of Fallout games and other studios at Interplay. But that isn't for a lack of trying by some of the original Fallout creators. The first confirmation I could find online of a Fallout authority calling our Vault Tech buddy his modern and recognized name of Vault Boy was an interview hosted on an old Fallout forum called Duck and Cover. Tim Kaine, the George Washington of Fallout, without whom there would be no Fallout series at all, was asked, whose idea was Pip-Boy? To which Tim, realizing that they were not talking about the Pip-Boy computer, but rather the Vault Tech mascot, responded, "Ah, Vault Boy. All I remember is Leonard telling T. Ray Isaac to draw something like Mr. Moneybags in Monopoly." Fans like the interviewer here were conflating Vault Man and Pip-Boy, but Tim Kaine corrects him to set the record straight and call that wily rascal the modernly accepted name of Vault Boy. All the way back in 2002, so the origin of this name is certainly nothing new. Now it is worth mentioning another online post that our beloved Tim Kaine made later that year, because I think it reflects just how easy it is for me, you, and any of us to use the wrong name when we are talking about the Vault Boy. On the same Duck and Cover forum, someone had posted a picture of Vault Boy, which they correctly named, but then decided to add some clarification saying that the character has also been known as Pip-Boy, which absolutely was the case as we have seen plenty of times so far. Tim Kaine actually chimes in to muddy up the waters by saying, "Many people seem to think this is the Pip-Boy, but this is the Fallout Boy character. The Pip-Boy is the yellow and red caped character who appears on the Pip-Boy device." What? Tim, did you just call Vault Boy Fallout Boy, like the American rock band from Illinois? This isn't the first time this nickname was ever used, although this is the first instance where someone who worked on the games said this, rather than just some confused fan. Throw this name on the growing list of aliases that Vault Boy seems to go by. Lest anyone think that the name Vault Boy was thought of well after the fact, which I feel like I demonstrated already, but there's more to this. In 2004, Leonard Boyarsky, the art director that first conceived of the entire skill guy idea, confirmed that Vault Boy is and was indeed the intended name. He also confirms what Tim Kaine had said in one of his posts earlier, that the red-hair, pointy-eared mascot seen on the Pip-Boy computer was indeed called the Pip-Boy. Pip-Boy is the mascot of the Pip-Boy. Good thing that's not confusing. We can definitively say then in the year of our atom, 2004, that the record was set straight. Vault Boy is the blonde vault suit wearing character constantly portrayed in a number of different poses and scenarios, and Pip-Boy is the red-haired space guy with pointy ears that has been seen exactly twice in the first 4 games, namely Fallout and Fallout 2, whenever the player opens up their Pip-Boy. And so the ever-present Vault Boy and the hidden away and forgotten Pip-Boy continued on through the Bethesda acquisition without any changes, although it was and still is a common mistake to call Vault Boy Pip-Boy, or if you're having a real brain fart, Fallout Boy. The continuation of this common mistake may best be attributed to the importance of the Pip-Boy, as in the computer, to play any and all of the games, especially after they became 3D. It doesn't help that Vault Boy has an expanded presence on the Pip-Boy either. He is on the status screen, the special screen, the perk screen, the skills screen, the general screen, and is often seen on the weapon and apparel screens as well. I can see how Pip-Boy could be so easily assigned to this character that is seen so prevalently on the actual Pip-Boy. Messing up Vault Boy's name is so common that both the Fallout wikis and Wikipedia itself has a number of disambiguation links to help searchers untangle this entire mess. I also have to show this graph here, which shows Google search results for the 3 most common names for Vault Boy: Fallout Boy, Pip-Boy, and of course his actual name, Vault Boy. Ignore the wild spikes in the early aughts because those are searches for the Fallout Boy band, but we see a bump on and around the date that each Fallout game came out, starting with Fallout 3. Fallout 4 and the Fallout TV show had the 2 highest spikes of any other Fallout related release, and Fallout 4's is just insane. What is the funniest part of this graph though is that both Fallout Boy and Pip-Boy are much more commonly searched. A search for Pip-Boy could of course be relating to the actual computer rather than the character, but with how closely Pip-Boy tracks with the Fallout Boy term, starting with Fallout 4, I think there is a good chance most people are in fact looking for the Vault Boy character, and both Fallout Boy and Pip-Boy searches outnumber Vault Boy by over 200%. So, this is not a mistake people will stop making anytime soon. There is one more funny twist to the story of Vault Boy and his name, and that came with Fallout 76. In the Atomic Shop, which is non-canon, although there is really nothing stopping Bethesda from one day making Atom Shops canon, similar to how the Creation Club content in Fallout 4 started out as non-canon, and then some of it was canonized and added to Fallout 4 with the most recent update. Wait a second, what was I saying? Oh right, in the Atomic Shop, even though it is not canon, it is worth mentioning a plushie item that was made available that is very clearly and unambiguously the Pip-Boy, the mascot of the early models of the actual Pip-Boy computer made by Robco. However, this plushie is not called Pip-Boy, rather it is called Vault Boy 2000. The last time we saw the Pip-Boy character was when he was adorning the nameplate of the Pip-Boy in Fallout and Fallout 2, which was the earlier model Pip-Boy 2000. It seems we have done a complete reversal. Instead of calling Vault Boy Pip-Boy, we're now calling Pip-Boy Vault Boy. Excellent work, everybody. This seems to have been an uninformed attempt at claiming that the Pip-Boy character was an early version of Vault Boy, but Vault Boy has never appeared as part of the Pip-Boy branding. he is just present on several of the screens. And just because it adds just one more name to this long list of Vault Boy aliases, in the 2016 release of Doom, there is a Vault Boy Easter egg that can be found where he is instead called Vault Guy. But this is much less problematic than calling him Pip-Boy like the Easter egg from Run Like Hell, because Pip-Boy is an entirely different character, whereas Vault Guy appears to merely be a variation of his official name of Vault Boy. Vault Boy has not changed much in the many years. The first concept drawings show a remarkably similar version to what has become the established Vault Boy look, with the little hair curl on the forehead, light colored hair, and a vault suit, although the proportion of his giant head and long skinny arms were changed to be less exaggerated. The similarities to Monopoly's Uncle Pennybags is certainly warranted, which makes sense because that was the initial inspiration, but some of the games had very subtle changes to his character, like how the Fallout New Vegas version of Vault Boy had larger eyes and longer arms, similar to what we saw in Fallout and Fallout 2. But Fallout 4 and 76 switched back to the version introduced in Fallout 3. This makes sense since the artist for Fallout 3, 4, and 76 is Natalia Smirnova, while Fallout New Vegas and much of Fallout 2 had Brian Menz as the principal artist. Vault Boy's artistic style has become the de facto method of portraying any cartoon characters within the Fallout series, as seen with Vault Girl, who is Vault Boy's female alter ego, sporting long light-colored hair and a vault suit, of course. Plenty of others have also popped up with varying hair and skin colors and hairstyles, to the point that it just feels wrong to see a cartoon character within the Fallout universe that doesn't copy the Vault Boy look. In universe, Vault Boy's creation has never really been touched on. Was he the creation of some marketing guru, an artist's illustration during a particularly intense chem-fueled bender? This question would not be answered and rarely even asked until the release of the Fallout TV show in 2024. Vault-Tec, in its ever-present pursuit of expanding its influence and power, sought to use a Hollywood celebrity to give the company a well-regarded and recognized face. Cooper Howard was the man for the job. Well known for his numerous movies, many of which were westerns, his wife Barbara became an executive at Vault-Tec, and therefore it took very little convincing to get Cooper on board, promoting Vault-Tec and getting that bag. Clad in a vault suit, Cooper Howard posed in front of the camera in a number of ways until they seemed to strike gold. Big smile, arm extended with a big positive thumbs up was the winning pose. And it would go on to be Cooper's signature move when doing advertising for Vault-Tec. We don't know every step between this iconic pose and the classic Vault Boy we all know and love, but we are hoping it will be fleshed out in the second season of the TV show. We do know, however, that the inspiration for the pose came from Cooper Howard. As the Vault-Tec celebrity endorsement, he at some point had a falling out with Vault-Tec, and Vault Boy seems to have been created to carry on the visage of Cooper Howard after he left. Something that over 200 years later, the ghoulified Cooper Howard still resents bitterly. Vault Boy's cheery nature would almost make one think that there isn't anything unbecoming behind those beady black eyes or that wide, vacuous smile. Almost. Lurking beneath the surface of that sunny disposition is Fallout's classic juxtaposition of atomic optimism against a sinister and dark world. Vault 77 is a vault that has only been shown in a webcomic that released alongside Fallout 3, where one poor man found himself scared and alone in an entire Vault-Tec vault on the day the bombs fell, with no one but a crate of hand puppets for company. Suffering severe mental anguish, over time the man established strong relationships with some of the hand puppets, a stately king, a kind-hearted grandma, and a loyal dog. But there was one puppet, forgotten or undiscovered, left alone in the box until one day it caught the man's attention. A Vault Boy puppet. The Vault Boy puppet spoke to the bewildered man. No puppet had ever spoken to him before, and it wasn't long before the man, along with Grandma and the dog, who was called Reverend Hound, found the king on the ground, slain, his head lying nearby, the ground caked in stuffing. There was really only one suspect, one being in the vault, sly and suspicious enough to have committed such a heinous act: Vault Boy. When pressed, Vault Boy admitted to killing the king, but he hadn't acted alone. He killed the king with the help of the vault dweller himself, much to the dweller's disbelief. He, in a moment of panic, listened to Vault Boy's advice to flee the vault. Vault Boy accompanied the man through the wastes, atop an ant named Mr. Pinch, spending nights by a campfire with a fellow ghoulified vault dweller, and eventually found himself tied up alongside the Vault 77 man, captured by slavers. The slavers took too long to decide whether to eat or sell their newfound victims, as the puppet man with his faithful Vault Boy sidekick escaped their bonds and brutally murdered all the slavers. The scene was grisly: dismembered limbs, carcasses, and blood streaking both his own psychotically grinning face and Vault Boy's unflinching smile. Vault Boy had killed again. Vault Boy has done so much more than incite a mentally broken man to psychotically kill a group of slavers though. So much more. Vault Boy's entire purpose from the get-go was to visually represent a number of diverse perks and skills where Vault Boy is shown doing anything and everything. This was expanded even more in later games to feature prominently and sometimes solely in Vault Tech cinematic productions, informational videos, and promotional advertisements, becoming an omnipresent and inescapable face in both the pre- and post-war due to his representation of one of the most powerful and influential pre-war companies in the United States. In many of these, it results in a graphic and agonizing death of some sort for Vault Boy, as he constantly finds himself in some of the most ridiculous situations. So what have we seen Vault Boy be and do in the decades that he has graced our lives so far? You ready for this? I don't think anyone can be ready for this actually. Our Vault Boy was an educated life-saving doctor, the dreaded Reaper of Souls, a spooky blood-drinking vampire, a pig farmer harvesting pig shit, a ninja clad in black, a wheeling and dealing merchant at a bazaar, a suicide bomber, a goody two-shoes boy scout, a skeezy car salesman, which looks a little bit like Mr. House if you ask me, a charismatic game show host, a gamer? What? A domestic house husband, a hustle and Vault Tech sales rep, then a Vault Tech manager, then a senior executive senior vice president of Vault Tech, a peace-loving, flower-sniffing hippie, a rough-riding soldier, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the literal horned and bearded devil himself, a very relatable nerd, a suave and sexy greaser, a sheriff laying down the law, a hitman whacking people and evading the law, a revolutionary fighting the power, a Greek soldier fighting for the power, a British royal guard with the giant hat, a cowboy with all hat and no cattle, a baseball player swinging for the fences, and a follower of his great radioactive holiness. He is Elmer Fudd the Wabbit Hunter. He's best pals with that very same Wabbit, the invincible Man of Steel, the Caped Crusader, the blink and you miss him Flash, the Incredible Hulk, not once but twice actually, the Thing from the Fantastic Four, a pissed off Wolverine, is he ever not pissed? The Honorable Captain America, the less honorable Spawn anti-hero, Columbus who sailed the ocean blue, Davy Crockett, the great slayer of Raccoon, Rambo, everybody's favorite PTSD-inflicted veteran, Conan the Barbarian, the inspiration for Fallout's Grognak the Barbarian, the Terminator twice, terrorizing people's dreams as Freddy Krueger, Leon the Hitman, a participant in the Twilight Zone, and a feisty little leprechaun. Oh, and we're not even close to done. He has been a mass murderer, blowing people's guts out, getting his own guts blown out, a celebrated graduate, a hopelessly chem-addicted junkie, a total drunk, like the wake up and find yourself tied up naked kind, living his best life in a radioactive barrel, rabid and foaming at the mouth, not rabid but still wanting to bite and eat people due to the hunger, a red-blooded patriot, crapping in an oyster tank, a prolific nose picker and flicker, and a partier who likes to hang out with his alter ego, Pip-Boy, and get drunk. You know what? I bet they bond over getting mixed up all the time. He is super buff, built, and cut. He is also super skinny and stuff. Here's a weird 3D version of himself. Ugh, yeah, I hate it. Make it stop. He is sometimes even dark-haired. He is a baby, then he's a toddler. He grows up to mutate into a creature or get a giant cancerous tumor. He's a tree, a radioactive ghoul, a non-radioactive surgical abomination, and even a ghost. Vault Boy is a man's man with a masculine hairy chest who we see hanging out and courting none other than Vault Girl. Oh, what a sweet couple. They fall in love and are eager to show it. Kids, look away. Before, through tragic circumstance, he is forced against his will to marry someone he doesn't love. He goes on to father children in this loveless marriage, hoping that they may spark the joy he eagerly seeks. But after one specifically ugly baby, he can go no further and completely abandons his lonely marriage. Single and alone, he unexpectedly finds a goofy but lovable anthropomorphic Nuka-Cola bottle one evening at the bar with his pals. A single handshake confirms what they had been feeling all night, and Vault Boy and Bottle share a sticky and bubbly night together. Vault Boy feels something that he hasn't felt in years: love. But will he have the courage to try and love again? Only time will tell. That brings us to the close, but I want to know, have you ever fallen in love with a bottle? No, that's not it. Have you ever messed up Vault Boy's name? And if so, what did you call him? What do you think of Vault Boy's evolution through the games, starting as a fun character for spicing up the in-game skills, to featuring in nearly every single advertisement and promotional video, and becoming the unmistakable mascot of the series? I definitely think Vault Boy's inclusion to the series makes Fallout better, but maybe someone here would disagree. Hey, it's the internet. There's always got to be that guy. Thank you for hearing Adam's word today. If you like what I do and want to support me, then do so in whatever way you see fit. You can join Adam's army on Patreon or YouTube, like these fine people you see on screen before you. I want to extend a special welcome to TIS Plays for joining on YouTube. Adam will bless your faithfulness. As always, I want to have special recognition for my top tier Alta Adam supporters: Acrid B, Gardner Minshew Simp, Dominic White, Tapey Papey, The Breadman, Tyler Eaton, Owen Balzer, and 94, The Love Mummy, Shallow Fire 13, Phantom Inc., Tataranus, and Ibis the Owl. Adam is pleased. Take care of yourselves and all of Adam's creations, and I will see you soon.